Walmart is adding their name to a list of companies reducing their diversity initiatives. But what's at stake with this? NBC 10's Malcolm Johnson joining us from Boston with the story. Malcolm.
Following the passing of George Floyd, JC, companies pledged to hire more people of color. DEI, it became a buzzword in corporate and business America. But following what we have seen in that initial push, we have seen many companies slashing their DEI departments. Walmart, the nation's largest employer, is pulling back on diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. The retailer will be ending some of their diversity initiatives, removing some LGBTQ-related merchandise from their website, and winding down a nonprofit that funded minority programs. The announcement comes after the House Oversight Committee passed the Dismantle DEI Act.
The major provision of the bill says to ban anything that acknowledges racism. And a few pages later in the exact same bill, there are multiple provisions discussing the presence of racism. This Republican approach is as predictable as it is nonsensical.
Tonight, the Mass GOP releasing a statement that reads in part, "We believe that hiring decisions should be based solely on merit, not on race, gender, sexuality, or any other innate characteristic. Taxpayer-funded roles, in particular, must go to the most qualified candidate, ensuring excellence and fairness for all Americans."
Where I agree with the statement is that we have to have the most qualified person, and sometimes qualifications means the ability to identify with the most and the largest amount of people.
Dr. Amari Paris-Jeffries is the president and CEO of Embrace Boston.
Where we disagree is that we know that meritocracy doesn't exist. Unfortunately, we don't live in a world where the playing field is level, where everyone is starting equally and we're starting on the same footing.
And as for that Dismantle DEI Act, we know, Colton, that it passed in the House Oversight Committee along party lines with a vote of 23-17. Coming up at 6 o'clock, you will hear from a local leader who has for some time now been concerned with the corporate distancing from DEI. We are reporting live tonight in Boston. I'm Malcolm Johnson, NBC 10 Boston.
Yeah, all right, Malcolm, thank you. We'll see you again in just a bit. NBC Boston's political commentator Sue O'Connell joins us live right now. Sue, I want to start with what Malcolm was just talking about and reporting on there, sort of the rollback of these DEI programs at Walmart, but certainly Walmart isn't the only place. It's part of a larger trend. Just in the past few years, we've seen obviously an end to abortion rights and affirmative action. And just in the last few weeks since the election, a lot of the support specifically for the trans community sort of just, evaporated, and now DEI programs are being dropped. I know certainly there are a lot of different reasons for each thing, but has all this sort of come from the right's reaction to what it perceived as woke culture?
Well, Colton, nothing unites people more than a made-up enemy. That's the main theme of the movie Wicked, right, by the way? And for the past 5 years, the conservatives and the people on the right have worked really, really hard to cast both progressives and mainstream issues like DEI, affirmative action, and actual human beings, people like trans people, as the enemy. Keep in mind, trans people make up less than 1% of the U.S. population, about 0.06%. In legacy admissions, that's when applicants get preferential treatment because they're the children of alumni or major donors. They far outnumber affirmative action admissions. They're not mad about that, though, are they? Right? The conservatives, look, they won the White House. They won majorities in both houses of Congress. So they are absolutely working to dismantle the enemy as they see it. So I can only imagine if they felt that lack of access to health care or lack of housing, if those things were the enemy, the things they could do would be unlimited.
It's interesting. I feel like a lot of people, a lot of pundits out there sort of say that this election was sort of money versus morals, right? So let's talk about the money side of it, right? Let's talk about these tariffs. 25% tariffs on Canada, on Mexico, an additional 10% imposed on China, the countries that we import the most goods from. So do you imagine that these countries are just going to accept this, or do you think that there could be some sort of retaliation here?
Colton, you have no idea, most people have no idea how much we rely on those countries for everything that we use. I think to answer your question, it depends on what the goal of these tariffs is or if there are different motivations and goals. Now, Trump says he wants China and Mexico to stop fentanyl production and the migrants crossing into the U.S. undocumented. But Ontario Premier Doug Ford, he says the threat feels, quote, like a family member stabbing you right in the heart, end quote. And he went on to say that Canada would have no choice to retaliate. Canada would have no choice but to retaliate on the USA. All right, he's not even in office yet. But look, Trump used the trade threats before as a negotiating tactic in his first term, but the pandemic happened and we don't know if that would have worked or not. So we are just going to have to wait and see what Trump wants and then decide if it worked or not.
All right, well, listen, we only have just a few seconds left, so I want everyone, if you're watching right now, I want to do you a favor, right? Because it's Thanksgiving week. A lot of people out there. We're going to be seeing relatives for the first time since the election. What is the Sue O'Connell recipe, if you will, for a political and debate-free Thanksgiving dinner?
Stay home alone. No, Colton, the advice here is just don't take the bait.
Yeah.
I know you may be shocked to learn that I occasionally actually have politics-free gatherings. And sometimes I just smile and nod and say, pass the mashed potatoes. The trick is not to engage. Talk about something else, like the dog show or the mashed potatoes, or my favorite, use diversion. Start a different argument, like telling Grandpa that Magic Johnson was a much better basketball player than Larry Bird, or that the Beatles were overrated. Divert, divert, divert.
You talk about other things other than politics?
I do.
Wow. Who knew?
Like Wicked.
Yeah, who knew, everyone? A lot of parallels in that movie. Yeah. Sue, thank you. Of course, don't